on, my dudes? Man, it has been such a long time I haven't done one of these. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that keeps coming up on my channel. A lot of you have commented, and some people sent me messages on Instagram, and they're wondering, is the Ducati 959 or the V2 a good bike to begin with? And then there are other people who want to know if coming off of, like, let's just say a Ninja 250 or an R3, is a Ducati 959 or V2 a good bike? So in this video, I'm going to answer all that for you, give you my reasons, and tell you if it's a good idea or not. First of all, before we begin, I really want to thank you guys for getting me to almost 2,000 subscribers. Right now I got 1,950 subscribers, and every single month my subscriber count is going up by about 380 plus. It seems to be increasing on a month-to-month basis, and I'm really excited about that. One day I'll have 100,000 subscribers, but until then, it's a long road ahead, and there's a lot of work to be done. So once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was fun. This bike gets my blood pressure up in a good way. Gets my blood boiling, baby. Oh man, that was a rush. So anyways, before I begin, let me start off by telling you guys how I started riding the Ducati. I started approximately, let's just say a year ago. I started a year ago riding motorcycles for the first time. And I've had 5 motorcycles since then. Although my experience level is something that is kind of controversial in my own opinion, because I shouldn't have bought this Ducati when I did, but I did it anyways because I'm a fool. But I want to basically tell you guys not to make the mistakes that I did. So I started off buying a KTM RC390. I did the right thing because I was initially attracted to how beautiful the bike looked, and I was also interested in tracking it. So I bought the KTM RC390. I went to a couple of track day events, and I felt pretty confident as a rider. I also did a whole bunch of courses here and there, which were all doing all the right things as a new rider should do. And after the courses, I felt pretty comfortable as a rider. But I made a mistake because I bought that motorcycle. I bought the 959 probably 2 or 3 months after I got the RC390. At that point, I probably put about 3,500 miles on it. And I had a lot of fun, but I prematurely purchased that 959, and as a result of that, it had way too much power for me, and I got into a small little accident with that bike. And it could have been a lot worse, but I got into an accident with it. It was just too fast. Somebody rear-ended me. I'm not going to put all the blame on them, but I will say that there are things that always could be preventable by the rider, him or herself. And I could have prevented all those things from happening. But with that said, it's something in the past, but I thought I'd bring it up anyways because it's an example for you guys. And then fast forward like a month or 2 later, insurance paid me for this bike, for the one that you're seeing right now. I bought this one instead. The accident wasn't my fault, like I said. And once insurance paid me, I think it's been about 6 or 7 months, maybe a little bit more since I've had this bike, which reminds me I should be doing a 6-month review for it. So since that time, I've done about 2-3 track days with this bike, and everything has been pretty good. I've been very comfortable. As overall, it's been almost about a year, like I said, since I've been riding motorcycles. And in between that time, I've probably ridden over 10,000 miles. So now that you know my motorcycle riding history, now let's talk a little bit about the 959. Would I buy this 959 if I had to start all over again? Would I buy it at 3 months or 2 months like I did? The answer is no. Here's why. The RC390 was the perfect bike for me as a first-time rider because full wet weight on that bike is less than 400 pounds. I would say somewhere around 380. Full wet on this bike is 420 pounds. When you're riding a motorcycle of this caliber and 420 pounds, it's a rocket ship. And it's something that is definitely Not recommended for someone who's just beginning. The bike is heavy. That's number one. Number two, it's got way too much power. Way too much power. It's got 155 horsepower, over 70 foot-pounds of torque. What you're looking at here is an early model MotoGP motorcycle. The one I'm riding, it says Corsa. Corsa in Italian means racing. So in essence, I'm riding a racing bike. It's a replica made for the street. It's a ridiculous bike for anyone to start out riding for the first time, or even after riding one other bike. If you're buying a brand new bike for the first time, this is a bad choice because the acceleration is ridiculous and it weighs a lot. When you're riding a motorcycle for the first time or just learning how to ride, the best option for you is something like an R3, a KTM RC390, or a KTM 390 Duke, just as a comparison for you guys. Even an MT-07 or an MT-03, those are, not the MT-07, I would say the MT-03 is probably a better choice for a first-time rider, only because it has less horsepower, less than 50, and it weighs a lot less than something like this would be. This is one of those bigger bikes. When you're on it, you don't really feel that it's such a big bike, but when you're tossing it around, you can tell it's a pretty big bike, and it's not something that I would choose if I was just starting out. It's very intimidating, it's very loud, it's hard to talk over it. If you're going to be riding this bike and you're going to have a mentor and you're going to talk to one another, you have to shut this bike off every single time you want to have a conversation with someone, because it's next to impossible to hear anybody. Once again, it's a race bike for the street. It's not one of those things that is made for a beginner. The acceleration, the power, it's overwhelming, and it's just way too much. Now, aside from the power and the acceleration, the turning radius on this motorcycle is about the size of the moon. Meanwhile, the turning radius in my RC390 bike, that was like the size of an apple. To give you guys a comparison, maneuverability is something that's very important for a new rider. And with a bike like this, when it's important for you to maneuver with it, not necessarily on high speed, because high speed maneuverability is something that anybody can do. Right now I'm doing 37 miles an hour. Right? So I'm doing 37 miles an hour, very easy to maneuver. But when you're going slow, when you're doing 10 miles an hour around parking lots, when you're going to the gas station and pulling out for the first time and getting in your line to your lane, all those things take into effect. That's when the heaviness of the bike comes into play. You're going to notice it then. You're not going to notice it much when you're riding. This bike, just like any other bike, it can feel like a 300 class bike when you're riding it, because it's got so much technology built into it. The geometry, all that stuff makes the bike feel a lot less than it actually is. But where all that stuff takes into effect is when you're actually going slow speeds. Like right now I'm going slow, I'm doing 7 miles an hour. If I were to make a U-turn right now, you would feel it a lot more on this than you would on a smaller bike. So, just to summarize, not a good idea to buy something like this because it weighs a lot. That's number one. Number two, it's got a ridiculous amount of power for somebody who's starting out. 3 times more power than you should have. And number three, when you're riding the bike at a slow pace, maneuverability, turning radius, all those things which are very, very important to a new rider are going to be very, very difficult. So, I were in your shoes, I would purchase a bike that weighs less than 400 pounds, wet, preferably 380, 390 wet. Make sure it is less than 50 horsepower, and you're golden. And of course, you don't want to drop a big, heavy, expensive bike like this. We're talking about a $15,000 bike for a 959 V2. That's a lot of money for a bike to be dropped and damaged. So, you know, those are 4 reasons right there. You don't want to damage your bike because it's expensive, it's too heavy, it's too powerful, and it's not that maneuverable on low speed. So why would you want that? Suggestion for you is get something lighter, get something with less power. Overall, your learning curve will be dramatically reduced by getting something of that caliber. And that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this helped you out a lot. For the people that have asked me, is a 959 a good first bike? I think now you know my answer, and my answer to that question is definitely no. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Please like this video and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you once again for getting me to 1,950 subscribers. We have 50 subscribers left to 2,000. So hopefully you can be one of them. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.